It's me, Vera, here to remind you that this is an adult podcast. That means we're going to deal with tough topics. Take a break if you need it, and be kind to yourself, because we sure won't be.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stitch of Fate, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition podcast. As always, I am your storyteller, Mike Martin, joined by 4 players, Dot, Josh, Mark, and Bub. It's been a little over a month since I think we've all gotten together, so hello, and I hope everybody who's listening had a great, safe holiday, and I hope all of our players here had an awesome, relaxing holiday away from the microphones for a little while.
Wasn't bad.
Turned the power off just a little bit. Yeah, it was okay.
I was actually trying to think
Pretty
back.
nice.
Like, where did we leave off? Oh, yeah, there was like a nice Christmas skating thing. No, that happened decades ago.
Oh, no.
That was decades in the past.
Yeah, that was a long
It's a little
time
more.
in the past.
It's a little more. Shall we say high stakes? Where we return.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Max and Savva, we left off in a precarious situation while Vera and Duke were back home mulling things over still after a relatively eventful week or so. Yeah, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But before I dive in, I am, as always, going to hand it over to Dot because, Dot, where can we buy merch, Patreon, all that good stuff?
Y'all, go find Google and search Pod by Night because we are no longer just Stitch of Fate. So check it out. You can go get our merch. Hit any social media of your choice. There's a link tree. That link tree has every other link you could possibly want to go find our merch. It seems that the most popular item is still Duke's face on a mug.
Terrible. You guys are making
To-
bad
to
choices.
To this, it's very close behind the What's the Rumpus hoodie. They are like neck and neck.
Because everyone
but
wants to put their lips on
So
it.
Duke, so Duke doesn't have... That's true. It's
Oh,
true.
no.
So Duke's got like... He doesn't have plot armor, but he's got like merch armor. I like can't kill him because he's just making us too much money.
So there you go. Find it, do it. And you know
true.
what? If merch is not your thing and you prefer dice, because I know you're all dice junkies, don't forget, you can always head over to Die Hard Dice. Our permanent code, it never changes, is FATE. It's always FATE, and you'll get 10% off any of the dice you buy over there. And they've got some of the best dice, and they've restocked their D10 sets.
Excellent. Also, make sure you buy everybody's merch because whoever's lowest on the list
Whoa,
dies.
okay.
Is that what happened to
That's the
Sean?
rule I've just set
no.
up. That's exactly. Sean's merch wasn't popular enough, and I we
told
got to
you
get
it's
a
memorial
cooler
stuff now.
character.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, like if
Yeah.
you're doing really well in the merch, the way to goose that would be to have the character die, and then, I don't know, it's...
Yeah.
That's true.
And then we can release new
time-sensitive
Sean.
merch.
Now there's going to be a
classic
spike in
Sean.
Sean merch. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. We're gonna have classic Sean and then new Sean as as his new form. Yeah, who knows? It'll just go get some merch. And if you guys want more like behind the scenes content or any like extra special bells and whistles, you can support the show directly at patreon.com/podbynight. Bod by Night is probably some lifter.
I was
guys
about to
out
say,
there somewhere.
that's going to be a whole different
actually-
Patreon. That's on
actually
you.
our OnlyFans that's coming in the future.
That's a good idea.
Fangs.
That's right. And you can post Duke thirst traps for everybody.
yeah!
I want to see Duke
Because
on TikTok.
Vera wouldn't be on there other than to like talk down to people, and that's
Just
all
Duke
she
and
does.
John.
Just- yeah, Duke and John. Oh yeah, John's like oiling
Always
up Duke's
mopping
body.
floors.
My body isn't ready.
That's it. That's where the money is. We figured out how to crack into the industry.
Clearly, we've missed each other, y'all. All right.
Well, we got to get to the serious stuff, I guess. So we left off on like quite the cliffhanger. So without further ado, let's rein things in, set the scene, and see what our coterie is up to. As the camera fades in, our eyes are blinded by a bright orange light initially, a flash followed by the sound of engulfing flame, and then the sounds of crashing glass again. As the camera rolls down from what seems to be the starts of a fire on a nearby building, we see a white van with 3 figures, one hanging out the window and 2 standing next to the van, hurling Molotov cocktails quickly across the lawn before some quick conversation seems to happen and they start to pile into the van. And as the camera pulls back even further, maybe the length of the rest of the block, 2 familiar figures fade into vision. One rather new, Savva. person, or should I say the La Sombra, who recently joined the coterie over the past couple of nights, and our dear friend Max, on their way to take a look at Larson's house. Here, having heard that things were being moved out by a moving company and the family was being moved somewhere else, this is the sight they are greeted with. And as the large orange flames spew forth, and you can even see them starting to lick the outside of the window and the tips of the roof. Those of you who are kindred and hate fire, we're going to need to make a fear frenzy check. So we rolled 4 successes, and Savva rolled 3 successes. And as the flames come into view and you can feel just the tricklings of heat down the rest of the block, and as these figures seem to be running back into the car, you're both able to resist the primal urge to duck away, look away, and round the corner and pull as far away from this life-threatening fire as possible, and maintain your composure. And as the camera locks onto the U2 and comes into focus, blurring the background of the fire and muting the sounds of the roaring fire a bit, you can hear the van's engine kick on. What do the two of you do?
Well, it depends on how far away that van is.
I'd say like 50 to 100 feet in between there somewhere.
Now with my soaring leap, how much of that distance can I close?
Depends if you're running or not. If you're not running, you jump a higher vertical than you do a horizontal.
Yeah, you know what? I think so. Max is gonna try to basically jump right behind the van. If I land on the van, that's gonna be a real tip-off that something just landed on the van. So,
yeah, it's gonna be hard to hide the creaking metals as Max's body lands on the van. But first, before we see, let's have a roll. Dexterity athletics, please. Yeah, I think dexterity athletics is the best.
Just so you know, he's not trying to land on the van. He's basically trying to jump so he lands right behind the van and could grab onto the back if he wanted to, or...
So what you see, Savva, as you're standing and kind of looking at the buildings and maybe even looking to Max to what to do, wordlessly, Max seems to dig his heels into the ground, and you can hear the ground underneath him, the asphalt crack and give way just a little bit as he bends his legs and launches himself into the air. He soars horizontally, like you said, just kind of straight across down the road, and you watch as he ripples out of invisibility and lands right behind the van with a thud. And as you hit the ground, you can feel the asphalt give way under your feet, Max, as you kind of come to a landing. You're maybe 6 inches from the back. You can reach the back of the van very easily from where you're at. I'm going to make a quick roll for the 3 around here, though they are dealing with the large sounds of fire and glass exploding here, so they're going to take a penalty to their pool. It doesn't, and so as you land, they don't seem to immediately turn around. There's no immediate chatter of what was that? There's just chatter of get in. You hear the doors rolling shut as the wheels are about to spin. Now, before you get another action, Max, Savva, what do you do in this moment? This is all happening as they're piling into the van, all at the same time.
Yeah, Savva's assuming that Max is going to do something, so he's going to prepare, and from out under a nearby car, he is going to summon a shadow tendril.
So we see Savva look to his right for a moment in a flick of his fingers, and as he narrows his eyes and seems to concentrate something out of vision. And the camera follows his gaze across the asphalt road onto the concrete sidewalk, and nearby a car. The shadow itself seems to grow darker, more pure in its black abyss type color, and as it grows darker, it seems to bubble out from the sides ever so slightly, and that bubbling forms and combines to create a cohesive, long shadow, essentially, for lack of a better word, that slithers and snakes out from underneath the car. We see back to Savva as he flicks his fingers forward, and with that singular command, it slides out from the car and begins to snake its way toward the van. Now, unless you're really looking for it, you're not going to see it, Max, so don't stress about whether you see this thing kind of snaking forward. It is nighttime as well, and it is avoiding as much light as it possibly can. That's the end of the first round. Second round, Max, what are you trying to do as these guys, they're basically going to be flooring it and getting out of here, or trying to?
I am going to... now, I'm just basically at the back of the van.
Yep.
Can I nip around the side and just, basically... My plan would be to open the driver's side door, grab the driver, and rip them out.
Yeah, you can make a roll. It'll be an opposed roll because they're trying to peel out at the same time. So you would need to move a little bit faster. So you can make that attack. We'll say it is since you're trying to wheel around the side and hit them or grab him, it is going to be, we'll say, a dexterity brawl check.
Sure thing.
1, 2. Oh, you crit. Of course you freaking crit. Okay, 4 and plus the 2, 5, 6 plus another 2, right? 7, 8. So
the move is
if I am
essentially
counting correctly.
driver's door comes open, the person in the driver's seat gets grabbed and then smashed into the pavement.
Oh my god. So yeah, that's exactly what you see, Savva. The camera watches as there's a moment as Max lands. Max hears the wheels spinning up. Before it has a chance to do so, he slams his hand into the side of the car, flings himself forward to the front seat, and with his left hand just rips the side door open. Now, would you rip the side door clean off the car, or would you open it? Because with that roll and your strength, it is effortless for you to just take the handle and rip the door of the van off.
Let's not cause a more ruckus than needs to be caused. And I kind of like,
Sure.
them also not quite knowing what happened. It's just like, what? Did he fall out? What's going on? Yeah.
And so, as you fling the door open, our camera shifts its vision through the driver's side door and to the passenger side, where some young man with short blonde hair whips his look over to the driver's side as the door flies open and simply sees the driver via shoulder just get yanked out the side of the door, and the van continues to roll forward as he had already pressed down on the gas, and it starts moving. You, without a second thought, like you said, you slam his face into the pavement, and there's a quick gasp of air before, as you peel the face back off the pavement, you realize this person or kindred is gone. Their face is mangled, blood spews onto the road, and their body lies lifeless in your hand.
Are they starting to dust?
Not immediately, so it doesn't seem. But it's only been less than a second, and thin blood's not. If it is a thin blood, don't necessarily dust so quickly.
All right. That's Max's action for this turn. Clearly.
That's your turn, Savva. What do you, as you see this happening from 50 feet back or so, or 25 feet back or so, you watch the van kind of peel its tires out, roll forward another 20 feet before it begins to slow down, and you can see the side doors beginning to open.
So there was a driver, there's a passenger in the front, and then there's people in the back?
As far as you know, one person in the back, they had opened the side door, came out and threw the Molotov, and then they all tried to get back in the car, slam the side van door shut, and roll off.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna use the shadow to grab the guy in the passenger seat and pull him out through the driver door.
All right. So does this act like you're attacking with this thing and it's based off of your statistics?
Yes. It's based off my wit's oblivion.
Okay. So again, you're just gonna make another attack against them. The door is shut. They're gonna have to swing the door open, so to speak. A dexterity brawl check is kind of like what I'm looking for here.
It's my wit's,
or is it just your wit's oblivion roll? Okay, just roll that then. Oh no, you're trying to do it out the driver's side door. Never mind.
That is 7.
A crit. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Now I know what it feels like.
Insane today. Hang on, I get a roll, but I don't think I have a chance here.
Sean never did this.
Yeah, I can't. Unless I crit as well, I just don't have a chance at coming across 7 successes. And so, as the van continues to roll forward, you can hear the side door, Max, opening and rolling open. There's another quick scream as you're kind of drop the body on the asphalt below you, and you take your gaze upward. And out the side of the open driver's side door, this thick black tendril that seems to be amorphous and yet singular in its nature yanks out another body, flying it out the side door, and it doesn't get slammed into the asphalt like you. Instead, it goes careening across the sky for a couple of feet, landing on the concrete sidewalk on the other side of the road. You see him skid across the concrete and kind of mumble to himself as he takes He took 7 friggin' damage. Jesus Christ. As the body lands, you do hear a loud crack, and as they skid, the body doesn't seem to get up from its position.
Kind of in the
This guy ragged.
Family Guy fall down position.
yeah, it's very
like,
arm
arms
over the head,
twisted.
legs bent backwards.
He ragdolls,
very-
and like Savva just stops him at the other side of the road with his boot.
And now,
And as the body stops, the camera pans up from the boot to see
and
Savva
I've seen
looking
Savva
down.
do shadowy stuff before, so I probably clued in pretty quickly. I don't think I've seen the tendril specifically, but I'm, yeah.
He showed up
That's
with
true,
red
yes.
eyeballs, so
He was a shadow when he showed up,
He
wasn't
hasn't hidden it before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah. And as the two of you kind of stand over, oh yeah, Max, you haven't taken.
Okay,
your turn
so we've got the
We've
side
got
door
2.
opening, but on the other, I'm on the driver's side, so it's on the other side of the van.
As the camera pans up to see Savva looking down, it then blur pans back over to Max, who holds this corpse in his hand. He drops it nonchalantly. You have the van maybe 5 feet ahead of you, slowing down its roll at this point, and you can hear the side door sliding back open.
All right, so the side door is on the opposite side from me because I'm on the driver's side.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I am going to let's see. Max is basically going to try to catch up with the van and keep pace with it. You know, it blocking him from view from the person on the other side, and then he is going to obfuscate.
Okay, are you going to do the one where you're able to move? I will need a rouse check.
Yes, I am going to do that.
So, and that's what we see. For Max, he just looks up at the van. He can hear the door. And with quick footsteps moving at a speed no human could dream of, he catches up to the van instantly. And by the side of the keeps pace with the side of the van. And as he continues to move, as the camera pulls away and swings to the other side of the van, we watch just as we lose vision of Max, him ripple out of existence. And as it swings to the other side of the van, Max, I need a wits awareness. Actually, I need it from both of you. A wits awareness, please. Jesus. Oh, you crit. Well, you crit, I think, and then you don't. Or does messy crit prioritize over normal?
I would
crit? 'Cause
assume it prioritizes because it's a fucking horror game.
that's true
God
enough.
damn it.
I mean, I don't know how you messy crit this particular thing. Oh, and Max doesn't notice, but that makes sense as Max is kind of preoccupied going invisible. Unless Max, you'd like to re-roll 2 of those die with a willpower.
You know what? I'm gonna and just roll them wild.
Yeah, just roll 2 wild for me. So you add another success, which actually gives you just enough successes to beat the difficulty, allowing you to notice as well. Again, I can't really quite think of something unless you can come up with something. Anybody here wants to pitch something? Basically, what you notice is as the door swings open, you actually hear the immediate footsteps that follow, and they seem to be getting further away quickly. They're hurried footsteps. It seems like the person sounds like they're running away on the other side of this van, jumping out and just sprinting off into somebody's front lawn. But because both of you are now on the left side of the van, you can't really quite see that as easily as you would have if you had been further back and could see the van from a different angle. That their turn is running. And on that, as the camera blurs back into look at Max as he's about to make his decision, we cut hard black.
Oh, hi. It's me, Vera. While you're taking a break, take a moment to visit dieharddice.com. Die Hard Dice is a sponsor of this little podcast. They make what we do possible. During checkout, make sure to use the code DRACPAK, DRACPAK, and you'll get 10% off your entire purchase. And we get a little cut for our own resources. Sounds like we only roll with the best.
The sounds of fire quietly fade away, and the heat that we would feel if we were street level cools. Instead, after a little bit of time in silence, our ears are greeted with a gentle breeze. And as our vision comes into focus, we realize the breeze is coming from outside of a nearby door, as our vision is surrounded with very familiar concrete walls. And as we move through these hallways into a room on the right, we see Duke, pacing gently, having just put down a manila folder and a book nearby, and Vera strides in. Vera, Duke's been down here the majority of the past 2 evenings, asked to be left to, he wanted to do some research, left alone and the like. But it seems but this is the longest he's been alone for quite some time, and I imagine Vera grows curious as to what he's been up to, as Duke hasn't truly really reached out to Vera on his own.
Duke, are you still dead?
You can hear the gentle clacking of her high heels as she strides into the open room, as there is no door on this room to keep her out or for her to knock on.
Vera. I'm afraid I'm very much alive. Sometimes I wish I weren't.
Well, could have fooled me. I haven't seen you in, well, a few nights. Are you occupied?
You probably notice that Duke, when you say that it's been a few nights, he looks a little estranged. Almost like he's looking down at a watch that isn't quite there. He's very much lost time. I think I'm fine. I'm more than that. I'm very alert, Vera. I've stumbled upon something, a stitch in time, if you will, has come back to me. I remembered something that I almost wish that I hadn't, but now that I have, I'm starting to see things in a different light.
All right. Well, your vagaries make me nervous, so... Cat's out of the bag. Tell Vera. What is it?
It is interesting, Duke being one to speak so directly, and now he speaks in riddles. It is odd for him.
Do you remember... Of course you remember. How well do you remember things, Vera? Things of the recent past, I would say of the last decade or so. Passing moments.
Sean was with us for the last decade, so... I don't know. I turned 100 this year, Duke. A decade is a tenth of my life. It's a rather short period of time, actually. I guess I remember a lot. What matters, some would say. Why?
I feel like time slowed down a bit with Sean. It reminded me of being a child and getting an animal. My mother professed that we needed something to keep us occupied and got us a puppy. Didn't rightly care for it. I felt the way that it should be treated was a little differently. I was locked in a basement. It's very similar to this now. I didn't want it, but this is far more comforting at my age. Sean was like a puppy at first.
My father told me dogs are good for two things. Teaching responsibility and teaching about death.
Sean taught me to slow down. And I thought I was already moving at my own pace. Gelatinous, it seems at times. Ice cold. I felt like an iceberg, Vera. And Sean made it even slower. I don't know how he managed to do that, but... he moved time at a different pace and he made me feel rather impatient. But I became more aware. And because of that time with Sean, particularly in the early stages, 9 years ago, I recalled something that I wish I had seen sooner. And Duke will push this book across the table. Do you remember this?
As you gaze down upon it, there's a moment. You can, if you want, you can have Vera make a memory roll if you don't think she would necessarily remember.
Okay, I don't. It's just a book. That's not Vera, had it been a piece of
that's
jewelry
fine.
or something more flashy, maybe. I just don't think she'd remember just any old book. So I got 2 successes. No, I'm sorry. 3 successes.
With 3 successes, you look down, and it takes a moment, but yeah, you kind of remember that. That was the night, well, yeah, it's hard to forget that night. It's the night you were able to get Duke to come out, or no, it was Duke's idea, rather, to go ice skating, which was really strange, and you got bothered by that minister preaching, and you got the book from him, which was empty save for one Bible passage.
Oh, right. That was the night they tried to save our souls.
Yes, with the youth minister of sorts.
You were a brilliant ice skater.
I think I walked on the ice for all of 30 seconds. You were the brilliant ice skater, Vera.
I know, but I was just trying to be modest, Duke.
It's not a shining talent of yours. I would stick to the ice skating.
Yes, well, Why did you keep it?
Something stuck out about that moment. And I have a penchant for keeping things occasionally. This was one of those things.
And you've spent the last week going through an empty book.
I spent the last few nights, or what I thought was only a night, going through my memory. And this matters, because this isn't the first that we'd met that minister, or at least it wasn't the first that we recall meeting that minister.
What do you mean?
Vera, I believe that this individual that I immediately theorized is Amitsi, the one that was running this camp for Thin Bloods.
Yes.
I think this was that minister. I believe that was that minister.
So you think he's been following us for nigh on a decade?
I no longer think this, Vera. I know this.
And what all this talk of Sean? What does that have to do with it?
I think it has some to do with Sean. I think he played his role already. That you were an important piece. I heard him say that night, yeah, that's her. And I've wondered what that meant since then.
Okay.
Vera, I need you to dredge the depths of your memory. You have to think back long and hard. You remembered Savva, but this person knew you. It's hard to forget you, Vera. You're rather stunning. But in this case, it was something far more important. Emotional.
There are a few, less than 5, a smattering handful of the old clan, as they called themselves, if they ever identified themselves as a clan in the Sabbat. Because the Sabbat didn't attach themselves to the idea of clans, and it was not normal or something regular that kindred would come forward and let you know what clan they were, only if it mattered to the utmost importance. Perhaps you needed a very specific ability and you needed to find somebody that way. But you ran with one in your pack, and you ran across a couple of others and had dealings with them over the 3 decades you spent in the Sabbat. That narrows the field quite a bit.
I've met a few Tamitsi in my time. I'm no judge and jury, but most of them were with my time in the Sabbat. They're a rather interesting group, the old clan. You think it's one that I know?
I don't think I know. Even if you don't remember that you know them, they've held on to you, a candlelight in their memory. Maybe of something you've done, something that you were a part of, one of your previous raconteur actions. Either way, you matter. You were noted then almost a decade ago, and they've been playing around us, just on the outside, orbiting us consistently. Now Sean has played his part.
The last thing I will say, not to muddy the waters for Vera at all, but you did betray an entire sect of kindred. It could be anybody who wants you dead on that side. They lost New York, partially because of your actions.
I might have a few enemies, Duke, here and there, but that's the life of a kindred, right?
I suppose that's the case.
Right?
Then the ones you can recall. Perhaps it's time that you phone a friend.
Duke. You think I got where I am because I have friends?
I think you got where you are because you're keen on fulfilling favors.
I hate favors. But you're right, I'm very good at fulfilling them. Duke, have you ever cared for something?
Materially, or more so.
I guess it doesn't matter what it is, but something that you found personal, you actually cared for.
I once had an old car that I cared quite a lot about. It took me many places and helped me meet a lot of people.
Well, you... When it was gone, did you feel anything?
Occasionally I long for that vehicle, I do, but at that point in my life, I was sentenced to life in prison, potentially even death. You find a matter of resolve, Vera. You steady yourselves, find the stoic that is in you, and realize that some things are not worth holding on to, whatever it is, and I'm not going to implore or ask. If you wish to tell me, you'll tell me in time, or you won't.
I've, by all rightful standard, betrayed quite a few people. Taken a lot of things they loved rather personally. I have a feeling if he's been following us for a decade, and was in fact involved with Larson, who purposely set Sean upon us. We had a conversation about how he cared for Sean. Brief and curt as it might have been. What if this is just personal?
Everything is personal to Kindred. We're constantly mad at each other. We're finding ways to press one down under the thumb. Consistently, we're blaming it on something else. One person's actions. It's the Camarilla. It's the Sabbat. It's this person. It doesn't really matter. We're all angry, and the truth is, we miss being under the sun. We miss the freedoms of our living life, even though we have what most of those that are alive long for. An eternity to make mistakes and discover how to right those wrongs. There is no proof in the pudding. We're living our own lies.
Well, Duke, if it is who I think it is, I expected him long dead. And we could have a real problem on our hands.
This person that you're thinking of, set them in your mind and establish some links. How are they tied to Savva? How are they tied to Gustav? What would the manipulation of us yield them, given our position amidst the Camarilla as black sheep? We're a collector's furlough. We matter not. The only thing that we have that would matter is what's in our walls.
I cannot answer all of these questions. If it is who I think it is, it's an ex-pack mate. My days undercover, he was in the pack with Savva and I. They were all supposed to die, you know, Duke. And it seems they just keep coming back.
Well, let's assume for a second that none of them are actually dead. We know how hard it is to kill Kindred.
Well, they've waited a very long time to come out of hiding.
Petty, fickle little things, aren't we?
Yes, well. He'd want to make sure I had something to actually lose. I imagined that it was Gustav because Gustav is attached to Max. Another soft spot of dear Vera's. I will leave you to your thoughts, Duke. I'm going to go for a walk. I need some time to think.
Make sure to pack your stilettos, just in case. It's a strange time.
Yes, well, if it comes down to having to ruin my only pair of stilettos because I have to defend myself, might as well just give up.
And with that, Vera strides from the room, leaving Duke alone to his thoughts. What is it we see Duke do immediately once he's left alone before our vision moves elsewhere?
Duke has reached a stopping point in this line of thought. Now that he has spoken it out loud, it is no longer a thought, it is real. And he's placed his position on the manor. So there's very little that he can do until something else presents itself as subject for matter in the conspiracy, right? So I think Duke sits back down to reveal what looks to be like a small notebook, and it's titled Relocation, Date and Conjecture.
And as we're about to see Duke flip that book open, and as the pages are about to reveal themselves, the camera cuts back to the street, the fire roaring in the background, with Max and Savva on opposite sides of the road, each with their own corpse at their feet. You both heard footsteps moving, and it is now the next round. What would you like to do?
Up to you.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. Am I gonna become visible if I jump over?
I believe
the
you will.
van?
Oh, good question, because I know if you walk, you won't, but
I figured we want to maybe keep this one alive for questioning or something, or maybe I'll kill them by accident. Who knows? All right,
it
so
happens sometimes.
Max is gonna basically leap over the van. He heard the direction with those big ears of his of which way
I'm not going to make you.
Going.
I'm not going to make you roll for this one. It's a much shorter distance than you leaped the last time, and you're not aiming for a very particular point other than the other side of the van. So we will simply watch as Max kind of crouches down again, sends himself into the air. Well, the camera follows with something that should be in the air that we can't quite see as it goes over the van. Before we get,
And I'm gonna try to get a little bit of horizontal distance as well, because I know they've had some time to run away, so
Sure.
I'm gonna clear some distance beyond the van.
Are you? Yeah. So you want to put yourself maybe in like the neighboring lawn where they may or may not have run into, like across the sidewalk and into the
Yeah,
lawn?
at least across the road and onto the side.
Perfect. So yeah, we'll see you leap a pretty big distance there. As you're about to land, camera moves again back to Savva. What are you doing? You simply see Max kind of stand up, note something that you probably heard as well, and then he's gone again.
Yep, Savva is going to walk across the road to a position where he can see the location that the footsteps came from, and then send his tentacle after to like wrap them up.
So as you walk your way around the van and kind of gesture, and it goes across the ground, out from underneath the van and onto the sidewalk, you watch as this figure, a young woman, is running, and she looks back, and she doesn't seem to notice. Well, let me make a roll, because she might notice Savva, but do you
That's
want to?
fine.
Are you trying to hide? Because you could roll
No,
to try.
at this point,
okay.
Savva is not trying to hide.
So she would immediately see you, and you would watch as she very swiftly kind of like pops back her long sleeve and rips off a duct-taped vial that was on her wrist. She pops it, and you watch her chug. And then with that, as she's running, you watch as her footsteps are like on the ground, doop, 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 and then the next one seems to graze the grass as she slowly starts rising up into the air. And then she stops the running movement and simply seems to be like gliding at a running speed, essentially, in the air, away from you. Next round.
Okay. I assume I clock her once I land.
Oh, you both see her very clearly as she rises through the streetlights for a moment and then into the darkness of the night above a house.
Well, I think this is really an appropriate moment for another soaring leap.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
gonna
feeling-
basically try to tackle her out of the air.
Dex plus brawl for you. Savva. Tentacle can probably still reach her at this point. You can probably
yeah.
reach out and grab her.
Yeah, he's not gonna like attack, but he's gonna try and grapple this woman with
Yep, just kind of grab onto her leg or something before she leaves, as she just is trying to move at sprinting speed through the air. So both of you make your rolls. This is the ones where I can't have you roll difficulty because they have an opposing roll. So just give yourself a difficulty of 1, I guess, and just take it away. And you freaking crit. Are you before we worry about that? Are you gonna reroll your? Do you want to willpower reroll, Savva?
Yeah, Savva is feeling particularly frustrated by this, so yeah, he's gonna reroll 3.
That's actually good because she would have nullified and been able to like move out of the way of your tentacle if you hadn't re-rolled. She had rolled just one more than you, but Not enough. As it reaches out and she looks down and seems to notice it, she tries to jerk away, but as she does so, something seems to knock into her out of nowhere and gives the tentacle time to wrap on and lock her in place and pull her down. And then, just as it wraps around, Max comes into view, inches from before hitting her. Before you land on top of her, how exactly is it that Max is soaring leap? How are you trying to tackle her in the air? Like land on top of her, full on monkey grapple?
Yeah, I think I mean, she's probably smaller than him, so it's like he just sort of like appears and then wraps around her, trying to keep her arms pinned. Like I said, I'm not trying to, do a lot of lethal body ass.
I understand you're not trying to kill her with this, and normally you would, but because you specifically said you're not trying to, you're going to do damage. But the way this ability works, however, is as you watch Max appear out of nowhere and grab onto her, burrowing his fists into her and maybe even laying an elbow before he holds on, she seems to dip in the air for a half a second, but then maintains her floating as Max, you aren't able to bring her down just by yourself. However, she's locked into place because the tendril is up and wrapped around her leg, crawling up her thigh, and then all the way up to her like a rib cage. I imagine moving closer to vital areas where, if need be, it can like choke her out, quote unquote.
Max will be, he's got a grip on her. Right?
Oh yeah, you've got a grip on her.
And I'm visible, so. I mean, does she seem at all surprised to see a big ugly Nosferatu?
I mean, yeah. We're gonna move into the next round now, and it's instant gasp in like a surprise. But what is it that the two of you want to do in the next round before we do what she's gonna do?
Well, Max would like to be able, when he notices that she's not going down to the ground, just says to her, it's like, "Look, kid, it's over. Get us down to the ground, or I take your head off."
That's what Max is going to say. Savva, what are you going to do? You're going to try and start tugging her downward?
Oh yeah, Savva's just going to reel her in.
Make your roll like a strength
slowly to the ground.
Oblivion whatever roll, because she's going to make an opposed strength roll to the best of her ability, but it's not going to be much because she's too busy with a giant fucking Nosferatu clinging to her.
That's 3.
With 3, you are able to slowly, as you kind of pull and focus on the tendril and, kind of exert your control over it, you do feel that you're winning the war in terms of attrition you watch as she's slowly being pulled down. However, she turns...
Savva is going to use this opportunity to, start the intimidation already, and he's just,
sure.
She gets close to the ground and it reels in, he's just going to be making a latch sound.
Like a crank noise. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, she turns as she's being pulled down, and as Max has her, she can't really turn her head to face her, but she can turn her eyes as far as they can to face you. And as she's able to make brief eye contact with you, Max, she simply kind of forces out, as you kind of got her in her grip, and she's trying to fight the best she can. "I'd rather die free than live as a Camarilla dog." And through the cracks of her eyes in the corner of her mouth, you watch as these cracks start to form. And these cracks are dark and bleed ever so slightly initially before you see a glowing orange yellow begin to pour through. And those cracks are going down her face. And as you look down, you see her hands are also starting to... And
well, I don't like this. I'm going to get the fuck out of there if I can.
You're going to let go, essentially, and drop down.
Yeah,
but
I think she's already hit self-destruct or whatnot, so I'm like, get the fuck out of here and try to get something between me and her.
As you let go and maybe wrap your coat around you to turn your back to her as you're falling to the ground, Savva, you watch as a giant bright light blasts in the middle of the sky, illuminating true sunlight down this city block very, very brightly for a couple of seconds, and you burn. You truly feel the sun and burn according to whatever your bane severity is, which is at whatever's both of your bane severities. 2?
2 for both of us.
So it should be both. So you're both going to take 2 aggravated damage from this as you feel the sunlight burn through your clothes. And as you cover your eyes and look up toward the sky, you realize what falls is simple dust from where she once stood, as the remnants of her being no longer exist. And the screen goes black, and we will return next week for more Stitch of Fate. Goodbye, everybody.
Hi there, mortals. Thanks for tuning in. It's your dear Vera Volkov, and I'm here to tell you that the club is undergoing a few renovations after a little accident, and we could use all the resources to get us back on our feet. You can help us by either joining our Patreon or getting your hands on an official Stitch of Fate or Drakpack t-shirt by visiting TeePublic and searching Pod by Night. Well, go on. What are you waiting for?